A few years ago, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, released a memo detailing the potential effects and dangers of detonating a nuclear device in the eye of a hurricane after so many people asked if this was a viable option to prevent the storm from wreaking havoc. The memo ends on a succinct note by simply stating, probably not a good idea. And the fact there was a government meeting on nuking a hurricane makes me incredibly happy. Today, the state of Florida is facing down another hurricane, Irma, only a short while after Harvey devastated Houston. Some Floridians, though, are not content with merely sitting down and letting Irma wreck their state, with a Facebook event going live titled Shoot at Hurricane Irma, prompting many law offices to encourage people not to do this, warning of dangerous effects that will have on not only them, but others. But why? What effects could shooting at a hurricane have? Well, this is what we're here to discuss today, going into the science, reasoning, and effects firing at a hurricane could have. I'm Max K from Ranting Redhead, and this is why shooting at a hurricane is a bad idea. Let's first start with what a hurricane is and how it forms. Meteorologists developed a 4-stage cycle to follow a hurricane's development. The first stage is tropical disturbance, where warm water vapor is pulled into the atmosphere from the ocean to form clouds. As more warm vapor is gathered, the column of clouds is formed, growing bigger as more warm vapor is collected, forming a cycle. When more clouds come into the column, it becomes a cluster of thunderstorms. If this continues, the thunderstorm will grow larger and higher, causing the air at the top to cool down, making the column unstable. The heat from the cooled vapor will release into the top clouds, warming them, increasing their air pressure and forcing winds outward, pushing the low pressure down to the water's surface. Air at the surface will then move towards the low pressure areas, forcing them up, creating more thunderstorms and a faster spin for the column in a circular motion. When winds reach 25 to 38 miles per hour, it has now become stage 2, a tropical depression. When the winds of a tropical depression surpass 39 miles an hour, it has become a tropical storm, where the winds are now blowing faster and twisting around the calm center of the storm, or the eye. In the northern hemisphere, it is counterclockwise, west to east, and in the southern hemisphere, it is east to west, or clockwise. This has to do with the Coriolis effect, or how the Earth's rotation affects weather patterns. Finally, when the winds reach a speed of 74 miles per hour, the storm has officially become a tropical cyclone, or a hurricane. It is at least 50,000 feet high and around 125 miles across, the eye itself being between 5 to 30 miles. The trade winds, the winds which blow east to west, push the cyclone towards the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, or the southeast coast of the United States. The winds in the low pressure zone actually also cause a massive amount of water to pile around the eye of the storm, which cause the monster storm surges which hit when the storm makes landfall. All hurricanes are sorted into 5 categories based on wind speed. Category 1, 74 to 95. Category 2, 96 to 110. Category 3, 111 to 129. 4, 130 to 156. And finally, 5, 157 or higher. But how does this information help us? Why is it relevant? How does it help us answer why you shouldn't shoot into a hurricane? Well, let's make a bit of a comparison here. It's a stretch, yes, but let's. What goes up must come down. We've all heard this saying. It was credited with Isaac Newton and the discovery of gravity. After all, when you throw an apple into the sky, it has to, by the laws of nature, fall down. Let's apply this to a hurricane, but change it for a second. What goes in must come out. If you see on this image right here, we see the airflow of a hurricane. Anything which enters into the flow of the hurricane, inevitably swirls around in the vortex, eventually exiting through the outflow on the top. So, if you fire into a hurricane with a bullet, eventually, somewhere, somehow, at some speed, the bullet will exit the hurricane. The only problem is, where? Now, while it's impossible to judge where a bullet will fly out of a hurricane from and towards what, it is relatively possible to estimate how much force it has behind it coming out. A 9mm bullet has a mass of, give or take, 0.0075 grams, and if it was coming out of a hurricane with winds of up to 120 miles per hour or 36.57 meters per second, roughly it would have about 0.2569 psi, which isn't very much, granted, but we need to remember the randomized fact of where it's coming out. What if a family is scared in their homes with just wooden walls and metallic sounding objects start pelting them? What if in the hangar of the helicopter they try to take off and save people, but the wings aren't going, the propellers aren't moving, because one of the bullets maybe came into contact with it and shredded it? What if car windows start breaking? What if car tires start going flat? It may not be much force of impact, sure, but when you factor in the randomized aspect of where they're going, in a situation like this, you can't take a risk. This ultimately, I think, is why all the police departments, all the law enforcement offices are saying don't do this. Because it's too random to predict where they'll come out, what or who they'll hit. People's lives are on the line here, and the offices do not want to take a risk. So where does this leave us? Well, because we don't know what you're firing into the hurricane, how fast the winds exactly will be going, and most importantly, where they will be going after they leave the hurricane, I think it's safe to say this is probably not a good idea. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something today. And if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button below. And if there is anything you want to know, be sure to leave a comment down below. And remember, drink coffee, gain knowledge. I'll see you next time.